QStudio is a free SQL Client and Notebook editor. It works on every operating system and can connect to 30 plus different databases. In this demo, we'll see how it has strong support for KDB+, including code autocomplete, pivoting, and charting. And we'll see how this allows fast and efficient data analysis. When you first open QStudio, you'll be presented with a welcome prompt, and it will suggest that you should add a server. So click Add Server. Choose any of the various types on the list, but for this demo, we'll look at KDB. You specify the host and the port, and you can give the server a name and your username and password. I click Test, the connection is working as I'm running a local KDB+ instance, and I click Add. QStudio then asks, would you like to see some example KDB code, as you've just connected to a KDB server? We'll open the code, but for now actually I want to focus on the left-hand side. Here you have your server, and below you have the various tables, functions, and variables that are available. Because of the strong support for KDB+, the code is highlighted, and the tables allow paging through to the end of the table and back and forth and so on. So we can click to browse objects, and we could copy a query to the clipboard into our code editor. Within the code editor, you'll see that it tells us we can press Control Enter to run a single line. So I've run the select from quote, or we can highlight and press Control E to run the highlighted text. QStudio includes documentation on all built-in KDB functions. So if I hover over till, it will tell me what that function does. Or if you're confused between whether it's xcall or xcalls, I can press Control Space and look at the documentation for those functions. It will allow auto-completion of your own code for any files that are open or for any variables that exist on the server. So for example, on the left-hand side, you can see there's a get hourly price. And if I start get and press Control Space, I get autocomplete on those server variables. So already within 2 minutes, we've connected to a server. We've clicked to browse around tables, dictionaries, and functions, and we've written and ran code. Autocomplete was with Control Space, and the docs automatically pop up on hover. The remaining items I want to look at is QStudio's very strong support of charting, the ability to import and export data using result actions, and finally SQL Notebooks. So for charting, I go back to the KDB examples, and this has an example for every chart type, and I could simply go through, and if I go to the chart panel and I say time series, it will plot it as a time series chart, and I could go through all of these. So if I wanted to show a bar chart or stack chart, and if you hover over the little eye icon, it will tell you the structure. So for a bar chart stack, the first string columns are used as category labels, and the numeric columns each appear as a series in the chart. So the key takeaway here is that for QStudio charting, it very much depends on the shape of the result as to how it gets plotted. There is no drag and drop configuration for this Java charting within QStudio. So if I change the query to only specify one column, I would only get the one series. And I could go through this and show various new other types of charts, so histogram and so on. However, if you hover over the little icon, if you click that, it will take you to the time stored website with an example chart and a table result, including a KDB query for every possible chart type. There's also further documentation on the website on the other functionality I'm going to show today. So that's the built-in Java charting that very much depends on the shape of the data. You don't customize a lot. It supports very large data charts. By default, it will go up to 10,000 items plus. If you want to plot even more, you can click this to render very large charts. You can choose light or dark theme, And in fact, for the entire editor, you could choose a theme. So under settings, preferences, I could specify a light theme. I just happen to like Darkula, and you can change the font, etc. And that's pretty much the built-in charting within QStudio. So all of this functionality that you've seen has been available for over 10 years, and it works and is highly robust. In the last 2 years, as I said, we added support for the 30 plus databases, and we've added a whole heap of import, export functionality and notebooks that we'll look at now. So the easiest way to see these result actions is if I go back to my query and maybe look at quote. And if I look at the result tab, over this right-hand side, we have various options. So the easiest one to explain is export to Excel. Click it, it will export to Excel, take an account of the KDB types, a little bit of formatting, escaping, and in a separate sheet, it will save whatever query you ran, so that if you come back to this, it will be quite easy to run again. Next, I want to look at pivot. For that, we will actually call a different function. Let's call get live trades. Again, I press Control Enter, and I've just got a table with one trade per row, whether it's filled or partial, and which symbol it's for. If I now click pivot, I could say something like, okay, find me the count grouped by symbol. Find me the count grouped by status or grouped by instrument. And maybe actually I want the count by symbol, but I want the pivot on status. So this is a very easy way to create pivots. And I could just have easily have displayed them as a bar chart or any of the visualizations available. On top of this, I have some other abilities. I can click pop out on various windows within QStudio to pop it out into a new window, allowing me to drag it around and for comparison later on very easily. And the last one I want to look at is export to QDuckDB. So within every QStudio instance, there's support for DuckDB database, an extremely powerful column-oriented database that's entirely free. If I click this, it will take the latest result and save it to QDuckDB as a table. And I can come back to that at any time. So it's very useful for storing little sets of data that you want to later do analysis on or look back at. Next, I want to look at our latest feature, SQL Notebooks. So all of the charting I looked at so far has been Java-based directly within QStudio. This new notebook format will be within your web browser. So to get started, I can either click on the Start Pulse Notebook, or I go Tools, Start Pulse Notebook. And it'll say, you've opened the notebook, would you like to open it? In this case, we will say yes. It says, welcome, Pulse Notebooks are a code-driven method for developing data applications with SQL. If I move my browser window to the left and QStudio to the right, you'll see that the page is redisplayed and I can choose which page to look at. In the bottom left of QStudio, it has now opened a file tree. The pages within this file tree map to pages within this website. So if I go to KDB All, if I go to KDB All, you'll see if I add something, it will add an update in the browser. Notebooks within QStudio are Markdown, but with special enhancements for SQL code blocks. So here I have an SQL code block. It says plot me as a grid, connect it to server Bob, and then perform this query to render the grid, or below it, it has a type time series. So let's go to pages, and I'll create a new file, and we'll call it test.markdown. If I open test, you'll see I now have the option of test on the left hand side, and we can populate various queries. Not that one, maybe we'll try the get live trades again. Oh, I'm in the wrong database. Go back to Bob, and it was get live trades. Change server back to Bob, and there you have the grid with the trades. If I create a header, it will plot the header. And if I save a subheader, it will create a subheader. And I could go through this, converting various of our previous examples. For example, the time series. And I would say, okay, it's SQL type equals time series. Put it within the code block, save it. It's missing the server, so let's say server equals Bob. I need to force it because there was an error, and instantly you get a plotting of the cosine that we had earlier, but this time it's in your browser and you can continue to create a notebook. So the best place to actually see what can be done with notebooks is on the TimeStored website, which if I go to help, will take me to the SQL documentation. If I maximize this page, you'll see this documents all of the visualization available within a notebook. And if you're moving from QStudio native charts to notebooks, the data format, etc. is the exact same. But you will have, well, much more modern HTML charting, much more power, the ability to create markdown blocks, and the ability to much more customize. So you'll notice that these tables have data bars, row highlighting, spark lines, and that the time series charts have some very advanced functionality for creating quotes, as well as marking events and periods in time, kind of showing the specialization for finance. If you go to the main TimeStored website, rather than using the help link, all this falls under SQL Notebook, and under there are quite a few examples, and you can go in and view any of those. We looked at QStudio for KB+, we added servers, we browsed objects, we ran code, it provided highlighting and auto-completion. Very easily within QStudio we could chart Java native results very quickly, and it depended on the shape of the result. We looked at the various import and export actions that we could perform, and lastly we looked at notebooks. Thanks for watching this demo. Please download QStudio from the website now and give it a try. Thanks.